Now for an updated earthquake damage report. The earthquake that rocked Stiver Island just past noon yesterday is still creating aftershocks around the area. All routes in and out of the island have been cut off, and many citizens are still trapped in or around Capital City. Rescue operations began in the southwestern region where flooding was the most severe. Thankfully, it seems that the operations are going smoothly without major incident. As more news comes in, we will keep you updated. Up next, our special report, Video Games and Violence.
Hey everyone, Mr. Fox here for a new episode of the Mr. Fox Report. For today's episode, we are going back to the early 2000s with the first game of its series on PlayStation 2 called SOS: The Final Escape in Europe. Also known as Disaster Report in the US and its original title in Japan, Zetai Zetsume Toshi, if I pronounce it correctly. To celebrate the release of the fourth game on PlayStation 4 and Switch this month in the West, let's go back to the genesis of this peculiar series that defines the early days of the PlayStation 2 Japanese game with a lot of different and interesting ideas, but with no budget. SOS: The Final Escape is probably one of the first survival games, but not how we tend to know them now. The concept is fairly simple. A huge earthquake has destroyed most of the city on your way to work, and you have to make your way out of it in order to survive it. A true survival, really. Of course, it's not going to be all easy peasy. There are some twists on the way and a background story more developed than initially thought. It's not Shakespeare, but it gives a double coating of tension on top of the not so natural aftershocks that the player will have to deal with. As everything around you is gradually falling apart, the apparent straight path on the map is not what it seems to be. Instead, you'll find blocked segments of roads and you'll have to look around and find an alternative. That's what makes the game fun. You have to look around for a way to progress. That can be a hole in the wall, through a convenience store, or a multi-story building on the edge of collapsing. Everything is a good reason for you to think what could be the way ahead. Okay, it's not that difficult, although the game doesn't take you by the hand like modern games. It's relatively easy to figure out what to do. The game is not dense, it's more like an experience. Technically, it's not pretty. The game often slows down when stuff are happening on screen. It's made on a budget, but despite all that, the scale and representation of the island and the city is fairly convincing. It makes you want to explore, even though the game doesn't really let you do it. It's more like the close quarters of Yakuza than GTA. Also, the game definitely takes place in a Japanese-like city, and so are the various protagonists and antagonists. But the funny thing is, they whitewash the main characters in the Western release by dyeing their hair blonde and changing all the names. The names changing was common at the time, but the hair color is surprising and cheesy to say the least. What's also cheesy are the dialogues and voiceover. Again, typical of the time period, so it is what it is. There are two main stats to look after in SOS, HP and QP. HP is self-explanatory, but QP is your amount of energy left. Every time you're moving around and doing things, the meter is depleting. If it reaches 0, then the character slowly loses HP. To refill the meter, you must drink water from clean taps or from a bottle of water stored in your backpack. The game is fairly generous with the amount of clean taps you can find. They can also be used as a save points and refilling empty bottles. Along the way, you'll be able to find larger backpacks and items that will help you progress. There are also compass collectibles to find just for fun. Gameplay-wise, it's not all bad. The controls are a bit stiff, but not as bad as OG Resident Evil tank controls. The only way to correct the camera is facing where you want to go or look at and press L2. It's the only way, assuming you're not in a place where the camera is fixed. There are some unfortunate cheap deaths too, mainly due to the fact that you can't really see what's falling on top of you. There is a bit of light crafting in the game and a system of relationship with the characters that will affect the various endings. Nothing to really praise about, but nice additions nonetheless. SOS never was a crowd pleaser. It was one of those many Japanese games to come out in the early days of the PlayStation 2, struggling with techniques and budget. A niche game with a great concept, sufficiently different to attract me at the time. I really like it and its sequel, Raw Danger. It's almost a miracle they have been released in the West. Sadly, we never had the chance to see the third episode outside of Japan. Thankfully, the fourth one is about to get released here. Make no mistake, they are largely flow game, but interesting enough to get the attention of a pool of curious players. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please smash that like button, and if you like the content, you can always subscribe. You can also support the channel with the link in the description below. Bye for now.